This is Create the Next from ProCFO Partners, where every week we explore strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help today's businesses put their financial picture in context.
This is Chris Bitliff with Jerry Quinn from ProCFO Partners. And Jerry, we're kind of going to put a series together here, I think, of industries and different focal points that those industries have and unique financial aspects and maybe challenges and maybe insights that can be delivered to those industries. And I wanted to talk to you today about manufacturing. What are some unique financial perspectives that you think are required for the manufacturing industry, or what unique challenges do they face financially?
Well, when you talk about manufacturing, you're talking about from pens and paper clips to automobiles and airplanes. So you're covering a lot of ground, but I think one thing that they all have in common is they have to have effective inventory control. That if they have to be making the right product at the right time, so that if they don't have enough made or they don't have the raw materials, they're going to miss sales opportunities and revenue. But if they have too much inventory, they will have it could be obsolete, could be technologically, they have to reduce the cost and give discounts.
That's a delicate balance because you have to prepare for that stuff months ahead of time, quarters ahead of time, to kind of know what you're going to need and what supply and demand is going to look like and what the world is going to look like. And of course, 2020 has been a off the charts sort of miscalibration for all of us. But how do those unique challenges inform our ability to reserve cash, to make investments, to do the things we need to do financially so that we are prepared in whatever space we need to be prepared in?
Manufacturing is very capital intensive, whether that's equipment, whether you're making thousands of widgets per day, or you're doing a couple of customized items and stuff like that. And that making that right product at the right time for that right customer is where the cost will be buried, those costs in the system.
I know there's some common mistakes or missteps that you see in our ability to handle that.
Sure. I think one of the things that all companies need to do better and work on all the time is that cash conversion cycle. That idea of taking that order, and from the time you take that order to the time you collect on that order. So again, it still gets back to that production mix, and the better you can control that production process and that time, the shorter you can be, the more flexible you can be. And whether that's automation or that's improving your processes to such a point that you can deliver the product quicker and then bill on time and get that payment so that you can then those inventory turns.
Do you see as automation, as there's such an interesting focal point today about automation, how do you see that changing kind of the landscape for a lot of manufacturing? As you pointed out, it could be automobiles, it could be paper clips, but that can so dramatically streamline processes and also workforce requirements. How are you seeing automation impacting kind of the financial aspects that companies are facing?
I guess it's a two-sided piece. Up front, there's an upfront cost in whether it's software, whether it's equipment, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. There's that upfront cost, but that payoff over time as you can improve the efficiencies of your production process. That cost of the product can come down through automation, those efficiencies, but improving those processes overall also has you delivering quicker and many times able to customize more.
Do we have to keep a unique eye on the competitive landscape with that? If we're in a space that's very similar to others and they are able to make those investments when we aren't, that puts us behind the eight ball.
Yeah, absolutely. That keeping that competitive eye on what's going on in the landscape is also getting you to that what you think the demand for the product will be as the improvement in technology and the products, even that delivery time for those products. Amazon being the gold standard, customers' expectation is now, order it one day, get it the next day. You have to have the ability to have it in stock and deliver it.
And that ability to innovate or to dedicate resources to R&D speaks to the value of having a strong sense of the context of your financial picture so that you can make those investments at the right time.
And in the outside world, even your supply chain, making sure you can get those resources, making sure you can get the raw materials to do it, but also making sure you can get even the labor force to do it.
That's an interesting kind of topic to bring up, the supply chain, especially in this moment that we're in. Supply chains have been so dramatically disrupted. It's interesting. I was shopping at IKEA, and all these things that you are used to seeing with abundance everywhere you go is it's sold out, or office chairs are sold out everywhere, or desks because everybody's kind of hunkering down to put their kid at school at home or whatever. How do we manage supply chain, even as we're part of a supply chain in manufacturing, or as we depend on others? How do we manage some of the challenges or unique aspects, whether we're in a pandemic situation, which is obviously very unique, or not, because it's such a dominoes need to fall, and my reliance on somebody else to build and deliver my product on time, or my ability to supply somebody else to do that, it's almost fragile. That ecosystem, one thing gets thrown off. How do we manage that financially?
So all of that being interconnected of those suppliers or whatever, and that sales forecast of your customers becomes very important. But financially, it's also having those contingencies in the supply chain. If you can't get it from one source, that you have another source to do that, but that you also have those pricing pieces within those, so that you, with each of those suppliers, you can work with whatever that is to keep that cost down, to maintain that cost.
Diversifying our supply chain, does that also give us a little bit of leverage to renegotiate some vendor relationships or contracts or whatever when we've got others that we could be working with?
Sure. And that purchasing piece of it, that you can always go and know what the market price is for the product you're buying.
Yeah.
You know what your multiple vendors may be placing it at.
When you look more generally at the clients that you've served in manufacturing, do you feel like you have 2 or 3 or 4 keys to success? Like if everybody were to do more of these things, you'd be surprised how smooth the waters could be for you, or how much better positioned you'd be.
Sure. Again, so I go back to inventory control being incredibly important in any manufacturing group, and also that that cash to conversion cycle, that you've reduced those production times and that billing space, so that you've condensed as much as you can to have those inventory turns and those other metrics. The other thing that seems very important is that base reporting system. A lot of companies have those silos of information, and to be able to capture all those, a lot of companies collect a lot of data, but it needs to be actionable. It needs to be distilled and analyzed to get to those right decisions, that you're producing the right amount and you have that right amount of inventory and who those customers are.
It's interesting how often we hear the same things from different professionals from ProCFO Partners saying, you can't just have dashboards of information and think that means you have everything you need. It's the insight on the information. It's the analysis that's required, which is certainly the role of the capable CFO to sort of, let me make sense of all this. Let me read this all to you to show you what's going on. But inventory control, as you point out, it's such a common issue. Do you see that? Are there 2 or 3 things that in inventory control, like what are some advice or some guidance that you have on here's how to better manage some of your inventory control? Some simple things, or even some less simple things, but they're mistakes that get made too often.
Sure. I think a big piece is standardization of your processes.
Oh,
that piece where you're using lean concepts or lean manufacturing concepts to have that done the same way. There's also, you need that strong sales forecast. You need to know when that demand is. Certain types of manufacturing companies, very seasonal. A big part of their sales revenue may be in the Christmas season or the summer season, depending on what they have. So controlling those pieces and knowing what you need at a given time should allow you to bring your resources together and do it efficiently and get the right thing built at the right time.
It's interesting how expensive not standardizing processes can be when you're sort of having to reinvent something every time you do it. And I think with growth companies especially, that can come out where you don't slow down to take the necessary steps to build a process. You're just in ready mode all the time or building mode all the time. And you can find yourself without realizing that you're in that space, in a space of deep inefficiency because you're kind of trying to catch up instead of staying proactive.
Right. And it's continuous improvement, but it almost needs to be relentless. It's all the time.
Relentless.
And as the market changes and as technology changes, processes change, it needs to continue to be looked at.
Yeah, and which goes back to your point about automation. I mean, these things around innovation, which change so quickly, really need to be at the forefront. And it's, again, it goes back to the role of the CFO to be able to advise on some of those things. Here are some ways we could be improving this or standardizing these processes or looking at things in a different way. And especially then in that competitive landscape, maybe there are some others in the space that are doing that. What are some other expectations that you feel manufacturing companies should have from their CFO? How should the CFO be contributing to some of these solutions?
Traditionally, the CFO has provided those books and records and everything that's gone on with the history. But CFOs really need to be more forward-looking, or CFOs forward-looking, and also need to be a more strategic partner, aware of the operating piece of it, why things are happening, not just what the numbers are at the end.
And I feel like that's a calibration that we're seeing more and more from executive leadership, where it used to be I rely on the CFO to sort of deliver the books, or as Nelson Tepfer says, show me how much money's coming in and how much money's going out. But today it has to be sit next to me and sort of describe to me what I don't see with your, unique perspective on this map. Where are we as you see us on the map, and how do we get over those mountains and through those valleys safely?
Yes, 100%. But it's really that forward-looking piece that using history to look forward and using a broader knowledge, a knowledge of operations, a knowledge of what's going on, as you said, in the outside market, what's going to impact the success of the company going forward, not last year.
Jerry, thanks so much for all of this guidance and insight and your expertise where inside of manufacturing we can be doing more and thinking. I'm especially taking away some of these ideas about relentless eye on change with innovation and with where we're headed with some of those things, and being proactive and ready to make those moves. Very interesting advice. Thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. Visit ProCFOPartners.com for more strategies and ideas for financial management and growth to help you put your business's financial picture in context.